time for a big story, but today, of course, is a special one. We're joined by a man whose name has long been synonymous with engineering excellence, principled leadership, and a deep commitment to the new patriotic party. Engineer Kwabena Agyepong, civil engineer, former presidential press secretary, and former general secretary of the NPP, has been a central figure in Ghana's political and governance space for decades. But today, he's offering himself once again for what national service, what he describes as such, at this time, aspiring 2028 NPP presidential candidate. What does his vision look like? Have you ever wondered? What does he believe the NPP must become? And why does he think that he is the man to lead both the party and the country into the future? Engineer Kwabena Agyepong, thank you for joining us today.
I'm very grateful for providing this platform. I'm very happy, and a good morning to all your viewers all across the world.
How's your campaigning coming up?
Yeah, it's very tough. I just returned from Ho yesterday. It was Ando in the morning to meet 5 constituencies, and then went to Ho. Tomorrow I'm billed to be in Aflao, and then come back to Sogakope, so completing the Volta region. I'm meeting the delegates, not all of them, but a significant number of delegates around the country. It's a tough assignment.
Is it quite difficult in the Volta region, or is it just very normal?
No. In fact, they have better roads than most regions.
Okay.
The Volta region is blessed with good roads, so traveling around there is not as difficult as some other regions. I've just been from the Western region, and the Central region is much tougher in some of these regions. But again, my vision is to transform politics in our country. I was just listening to what was transpiring, the program before we joined in. And I think it's time for us to create a new Ghanaian. It's very important. And we, the political leaders, have to lead by example, not just by mere words, by our actions. Because patronage should take a back seat right now for us to understand that the very essence of politics is to improve the livelihoods of the ordinary Ghanaian. And once we make that a priority, it will change the way we do politics. Because as it stands now, Ghana, it is so stridently divided that we look at every problem through political lenses. What is wrong, and what is good, is good. It doesn't matter whether you are MPP or NDC. There comes a time we have to speak up. And I quite remember in 2022, I had an interview, was it with Akusua Konedu? She was also an affiliate of Joy. You know, when I called on the finance minister to step down. And there were people who were criticizing me that because I'm an MPP member, I shouldn't say so. I said so because he looked in the eyes of Ghanaians and said, we're not going to IMF. That we're a proud country, we can take care of ourselves. And within a week, a solid 360 turnaround. And I feel that we should not accept mediocrity in this country.
Does it surprise you what is happening, the accountability that most of the investigative bodies are seeking with him? Does it surprise you?
Not exactly. What I'm trying to say is there should be harmony, there should be equity, and we should not let it create the impression that it's political harassment. I believe that when you tinker with the public treasury, there has to be a high penalty that you should pay, you know. And I have zero tolerance for corruption. I've been there before. I've served as press secretary to the president for close to 6 years, and I'm blemished service in government because I believe that politics is about service. It's about working hard to ensure the goodwill of the people, the welfare of the Ghanaian people. It's not about ourselves. And right now, the direction that we are running as a country, the trajectory that we are on, I'm worried about it. And it's getting more stridently divisive. I think we stand in urgent need of healing. And I'm the kind of person I believe can heal the divisions in the MPP and also in Ghana. Because I'm worried about what is happening around the country. What they were discussing is an assault on democracy. Because the 3 pillars of democracy, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, they are supposed to be checks and balances on each other. The impression should not be created that the executive can virtually take control of the judiciary.
By this means you're talking about the removal of the
Chief Justice, which I think was totally unfortunate. It was premeditated. We saw it before the election. They promised it. They've done it without, the charges that they are talking about doesn't pass the smell test at all.
But is it the fault
To
of the government or
remove the
Constitution?
Chief Justice.
Would it be the fault of the government or the provision in the Constitution?
The Constitution is made for man. It is the president who operates the Constitution. And that's why the buck stops at the decks of the president. These frivolous petitions should never have passed the decks of the president. Never. That's why he's president. And I'm disappointed in wasting the state's time and energy in removing a Chief Justice who had not caused any major infractions in society. I mean, when there's a grave error, all of us will admit that there has been a grave error. But so far, I mean, tell me, you are a journalist, MFA. Really, what have you heard has been the culpability of this Chief Justice? So it was just a political move, calculated to cause fear in the judges. And Mahama, when he was in opposition, the president, was accusing President Akufo-Addo of packing the courts with his favorites. But, I mean, to give some credibility to the president, he was always filling vacancies when they arise. I disagreed with him then because I believed our Supreme Court should not be more than 9 judges. President Agyepong would put a cap on the Supreme Court and lift the 70-year-old age for Supreme Court judges. Okay. And so, therefore, I would have thought that even when Akufo-Addo was president, that when there's a vacancy, you can use the vacancy to reduce the number of judges. So I disagreed with him on that. But he had the prerogative and he was only filling. President Mahama came in without a vacancy, in one fell swoop, appointed 7 Supreme Court judges. And that is completely in variance to what he was saying when he was in opposition.
You say that we should create a new Ghanaian. You say
that's
that
right.
You think that you can do quite better with this country. Let's talk about the medium or the vehicle with which you can do that, of course, because you belong to a political party.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the political party maybe first, then we'll open it up to the country at large. If you look at the days and the years you spent, the early days of the NPP and today, what has changed?
That is why the theme of my campaign is MPP going back to our roots.
What does that mean?
When I say roots, when politics was a noble calling. If you look at our forefathers, our forebears, the sacrifices they were making. And we were under military dictatorship. It took courage, determination, a large dose of volunteerism and commitment to bring this party this far. There was no essence of materialism. We were never ruled by money. It was all by merit. You understand? And I think we've lost our way a bit as a political tradition. And that is the message I've been communicating to our delegates, that we need to restore the cherished values, the values that made this party the pride of Ghanaians, because there were people who you could look at, great people who were prepared to sacrifice their lives just for the development of democracy. That seems to have waned significantly. And I want to use myself, my life in politics, because I was pretty young in 1992, but I was there when it happened. That dedication, that will to do something for your country, not always to look at what you get out of our system. That is what I want to inculcate in the generations unborn.
But globally, if you look at it and you put Ghana in the middle of the global conversation when it comes to politics, does it look to you as though we can go back to that era?
We can.
Have we
can.
People's aspirations and missions?
I think we need a new leader, a new leadership, a new political thinkers, people who think, people who have character. It's not razzmatazz. It's not throwing away money and you know, the kind of materialism that we are seeing dominating politics.
What do you describe as razzmatazz?
A lot of showbiz and throwing things about. You know, that for me, politics is serious. The welfare of the 35 million Ghanaians, MFA, is a serious matter. And I think that as a country, we don't look at our priorities well, whether it's socially, economically, or politically. And so it is very important that it is time to recalibrate our thinking of what politics should be. We think it's patronage, that every party comes into power and we treat Ghana as a piece of cake, we cut it up and share it up amongst ourselves. That is wrong. I have been there before. I've been press secretary to the president at the high level of a cabinet minister in the government. I did not misconduct myself. I did not abuse myself. I have zero tolerance for corruption. And I think we have to begin to communicate that to the Ghanaian people. Because all the Afrobarometer surveys that you see, the respect the regard the Ghanaians have for politicians has collapsed because there's a field that we get in there to fill ourselves.
Going around the
it is
country,
time
going
for
around
us,
the country
yeah,
and engaging with delegates.
That's right.
Do they understand this?
They do, a lot of them. I mean, you speak to them, some are even in tears. They believe that it is time for us to put our hands on our chest and know that we can build our country. All the developed countries that around the world were not built on materialism. They were built on public-spirited leaders who were prepared. Look at Angela Merkel. She left as chancellor, still went back to her flat. Was loved by Germans because she did the people's bidding, the people's job. That is what we should be doing. We have become a celebratory people, you know that. Because once Ghanaians get a position, they're always surrounded and imprisoned by enablers who are urging them on to do the wrong things. And so I'm against that. I want to speak against that. I want to be the politician, even if it is a risk of political victory. I'm prepared to do that. I'm going to be the politician who's going to fight for what is right in our country.
It's not your first time wanting to be president of this country. I would say that you're quite not relenting. You've shown, if we follow your journey. But between 1992 till today, as you sit in this chair, at what point did you think that I think I can be president of this country?
Well, I've thought about that for a very long time because I feel we have a deficiency in this country to have public-spirited individuals who are dedicated to fighting for the common good, who have a collegial mentality, who are looking for our collective welfare and not self-aggrandizement. That's not all we need in our country. And although we are in a small minority, and I know that we are an endangered species now, people talk to me and say, Kwabena, what you are saying is utopian. It is not utopian. It is achievable. And it's all down to political leadership. I don't think our constitution is faulty. I think I blame the presidents for the way they have manipulated the constitution.
This constitution as we have.
As we have.
You'd rather it's...
I think it's a good constitution. The only change I would like to make to it, to have full separation between the legislature and the executive like in America.
But can that be very functional?
Why not?
If there's very full separation.
Why not? So that cabinet ministers are not members of the legislature. So that the parliament will concentrate on doing what they are supposed to do. To have oversight responsibility on the government. So that it becomes a check and balance. We have been running a deficit budget for ages. Look, we've done SRP, ERP, FinSAP. We've done all the economic models, but we are still where we are. So it's not about the economic policies or economic models. It's a lack of implementation. It's a lack of goodwill. It's a lack of strong political will to impose order and discipline in every facet of our national life.
Back to the NPP as a party again. So you say that you wish that party members, you will take them back to the way it was years ago when you started. What would be that one thing you'd like to see change with the NPP? I see that you have proposed a number of reforms, which have actually taken expression in the new reforms that they have just done.
It didn't go far enough.
It didn't go far enough. I wanted the party to be handed back to the masses. And that if we cannot get every registered member who is dues paying to have a voting right, the very least we could have done, and that was in my proposal of 17 April 2025, to give a voting right to all the former executives of our party. They have worked for the party right from 1992. At the ward level, at the polling station level, at the electoral area level, and then at the constituency level. That will expand the electoral college to close to about 2 million. That will make it unattractive for people to try to go around with goodies. But in general elections, you still see people go around with goodies.
And we have to speak against it, and we have to work against it. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to make leadership the preserve of a wealthy few.
Maybe my question is on the premise that if indeed we open the base, what's the incentive that if people can do it in the general election, it cannot happen within the party internally?
What is important is that when you are doing that, when we break up the delegate system, then we can use platforms such as yours. And that's why I have even challenged my other 4 colleagues that we should have a nationally size debate, Ghanaians and our party people deserve to make an informed choice. And that informed choice will be based on our policy differences, our priorities, our character, our record. That should be scrutinized. You understand? Right now, nobody has taken up that offer that I made. I think that the Ghanaian people deserve to know where we stand on major policies because, we don't do a lot of thinking in Ghana. We have to be serious-minded people, and character matters. So I think the way we are looking at governance, it's becoming like a popularity contest. But that does not normally give you the best leader that we need. We need somebody who's got transformative ideas, somebody who has shown that he's prepared to work for results. That is important. And then has the political will to crack the whip when it matters. And I think I fit that kind of bill.
Talking about what you fit, have you heard about that theory about you that's, Kwabena Agyepong, quite a fine gentleman. I think he would make a better departmental head, if you understand that. I think he can be general secretary. He can whip people back in line. Have you heard that about yourself?
I've been general secretary before.
I mean, they think that...
I don't know why you are telling me about the position of general secretary.
Not that particularly.
You work to move forward in life.
Not the general secretary today per se, but people say that, you're such a fine gentleman, but you should look at a position that holds the party together, not necessarily the president or the flag bearer. Have you heard that at all?
What is important is that the party itself is in the belly of the country.
Okay.
And I think both the country and the party stands in urgent need of a serious-minded, public-spirited individual to lead our country, who is prepared to call a spade a spade. It's very important. And we haven't had that for a bit. So I think it's important that my views are very clear. I have a strong 6-point plan that I'll adore very soon to the people of Ghana, including land reform, including restoring meritocracy and professionalism to the public services. I think in Ghana now, we've tainted everything with politics. And that's why I see the move on the Chief Justice as an assault on the pillars of democracy. Today, you go into a sensitive institution like the army or the police, and they are telling you this man is MPP, this man is NDC. That is wrong. There should be stagecraft. People are there that should be professional enough to serve their country. And the fact that somebody was CDS under an MPP administration, that doesn't make him an MPP person. And we need to protect the state institutions, to build the sanctity of these institutions and strengthen them. As a former president said of America came here and said, we need to build strong institutions of state, not strong personalities. And so what is happening now is to deface the public institutions. I've seen party faithful attack public institutions, close even the offices. The offices belong to the country. The fact that the party has won power does not give that party that right, or members of the party the right to go and enforce their control in state offices. There has to be a clarity between a political party, which is a vehicle that is used to produce a president, and the office of the president that acts for all of Ghana. And that's what I believe in.
With all the reforms that the party looked at, you talk about the opening the base,
which we did not go far enough.
We didn't go far enough.
Didn't go far enough.
The other reforms.
And even the two that they are now adding to the polling stations, they added a sunshine clause at Congress, which I did not understand. It means although our party has approved 80,000 more to be added to the Electoral College, that is 2 at each polling station in the 40,000 polling stations, and 4 more for the over 7,000 electoral area coordinators. That would bring close to another 30,000. If we put that together, it means as it stands now, we are disenfranchising over 130 voters who have been legally approved by our Congress, that we have to actually execute the most important election, which is the presidential primary, before we can add them. What is the rationale for such a thing?
Talking about disenfranchising people,
the
conversation of proxy voting has come up strongly. And in the past, you'd see people who use proxy voting mostly based abroad, whereas it allows you, if you have other situations that can help you use a proxy vote. but mostly, if you look at it traditionally, it will be people who have been outside the country. But the NPP's leadership said that they're banning that. How does that come to you?
It's not entirely correct, MFA, what
Okay.
you said. I mean, we've always seen our diaspora people come here and vote. During the primaries that I participated in 2023, they all came down and voted. So proxy are used in exceptional circumstances. Maybe there's a health issue. Maybe you're a public service worker and you have to be outside for a conference or something. That makes it impossible for you to be in the jurisdiction. And that one you even apply to the General Secretary. And you can only give your proxy to someone who is already on the register. And you can only have one more proxy. You know, so it cannot be that people say they are outside and therefore they want others to vote for them. No. But
they say it's expensive to come to Ghana.
It has always been expensive. Let me tell you, a ticket from Wa to Accra is more expensive than Accra to London.
Really?
Oh, yes. Check it, dollar rate and see it. You know, so there are people who may be in Wa on the day who want to come to Accra and come and vote. So that for me is not an excuse. You know, the Presidential Elections Committee is going through making sure that we have a transparent, equitable environment for this election.
But how does allowing that not make it equitable
I've been
or
General
not
Secretary
transferable?
before.
Okay.
And I've also contested for General Secretary before. And I've seen how proxy votes have been abused in the past. They have been. It's a fact. I'm not going to go into the details. You understand? So I know how it's been abused before in the past. If you have a genuine proxy, that health issue, you have a doctor's report that you can't make it on the day, you are bedridden, but you have a voting right, you can always request the General Secretary. And that should be done. But it cannot be a blanket thing for the whole diaspora and say that all of you can have their proxy vote. That is unacceptable. We are not going to accept that as candidates. And I know this morning we are having a meeting with the Presidential Elections Committee. I don't know whether that comes up, but I think that shouldn't be a big issue. I don't know why people are creating an issue out of it.
The current approach of having to elect the presidential candidates before the executives, does it work well for you?
You know, I think if you looked at my proposal, I was the first to make that proposal because we are in exceptional circumstances. Unfortunately, our chairperson, who's normally the leader of our party, and if in the past we've had very strong party chairmen, B.J. Darocha, Peter Alajete, Odoi Sykes, and the rest. You know, at any point, especially when we're in a difficult situation that we find ourselves now, you need a figure that can drive our leadership and focus our party. Unfortunately, for health reasons, the one who is elected, who has the mandate to lead, is unable to perform his duties. So we have an acting chairman. So it creates a vacuum. It creates a vacuum. And see, we should not create a situation where the impression is created that because of that vacuum, there is no leadership. And that's why I felt maybe it would be best, first to expand the Electoral College, because I felt that was the most important thing. And so if you look at the proposal that I submitted to the party, everything else was contingent on the expanded Electoral College, which was not achieved. But I think my second point, I said, look, considering the exceptional circumstances that we find ourselves, I think that if we are able to expand the Electoral College and looking at how polarized the party has become, and that when we start the elections from the polling stations, electoral areas, that polarity will get in there. You know, where constituency chairman will be supported by various candidates. You know, so you go to a constituency, you see the chairman belongs to candidate A, the secretary is candidate B. It doesn't work for the harmony of the constituency. And I believe all parties, our strength depends on how harmonious and cohesive our constituency party is. So I said, look, considering where we are now, coming from a very difficult defeat that we suffered in 2024, perhaps after we've enlarged the base to about 2 million voters and we have refreshed the base, then maybe we should have the presidential election first. Apparently, it fitted into some people's plan. So they picked that portion and it became the news. You know, Kwabena Agyepong says top down. I never mentioned top down or bottom up, never mentioned it. But it's been christened as such. But it was well intentioned, just to make the party strong, to create more harmony and cohesiveness. That's what I thought we were trying to do. And in fact, I even suggested that, look, 93% of the Electoral College is made up of the polling stations. Their mandate expires in February. Their mandate expires in February. There are two options. We could push the election from 31st January to, say, 31st March and have a freshened Electoral College and include the two that has been approved by Congress. Because it's always better to refreshen the base of the party before you go into an election. That is what I captured in my proposal. But people have torn it apart, presented it by their own ways, and created this impression. So for me, even now, it's not too late. I felt that the polling stations should have been refreshed. It's important always, and they make up 93, 94%. Once the base is refreshed, it's not the same old polling stations system that gave us this defeat.
In your view, who's the real leader of a political party? The flag bearer or the chairman?
It's the flag bearer. I mean, let's not joke about anything. He's the one whose face is going to be on the ballot. He's the one who's going to be president. I mean, let's face facts. I want to be a very pragmatic and realistic person. I mean, so when we went to Congress and we said that the chairman is the leader, I just laughed. There's no need. The chairman has always been leader in the Constitution. He has headed the party. Even when we have a president, when we go to national executive, it is chaired by the chairman. The president sits by the side. You understand? So we all recognize that. But the president is the president of all of Ghana. And the party chairman is chairman of a political party inside Ghana. So we should respect and accord that respect to the flag bearer or the presidential candidate. I think it's important. He's the one whose face we are going to sell to the Ghanaian people.
So for you, regardless of how they have just extracted portions of what you were proposing, we have the arrangement that we vote for the presidential candidate first, but we have acting chairman and all of that. Yeah. Does that cause any nuance at all?
It's worrying because, you see, there's a growing feeling, and I feel uncomfortable to say this, but the program that we just saw, I mean, my daughter, Dr. Amuako, is the daughter of my very good friend. We're colleagues. George Amuako, that's the daughter, very brilliant girl, and I enjoyed her delivery on this program. But I thought she was there should have been representing NPP, because there was NDC, there was United Party, and there was a political scientist. Why was she referred to as the spokesperson for Dr. Bawumia?
It's her address. It's how she likes to be addressed.
It is wrong. We see, once we do that as a political party, it creates the impression that the party establishment is pushing behind one candidate.
Do you feel like that, though?
Well, by this program this morning, you are sending a wrong signal to the party. You're sending a wrong signal to the party.
If we take away this morning's program, do you still look at the whole...
Well, I believe in fighting my corner, and I'm a taskmaster. You know, I want to work hard and do my best. Tell the people the hard truth. That's what I've been telling them. And that right now, as a political party, we need to have a fresh lease of life. We need to depart from what we've been known for the last 2 decades. I think it is in our own interest. The last 8 years were very difficult for Ghanaians. And of course, therefore, they would always blame the government. So why send people who played a significant role in the government? Fortunately, I'm the only candidate who did not participate in the last 8 years. And that will give Ghanaians a fresh look at me. And they may give me the benefit of the doubt.
I can dare say that.
All the difficulties.
Shall I dare say that you have been, among all the candidates, you have served longer in the party?
Of course. That's a fact. I mean...
Okay. I mean, if you look at the voting population currently, I would also say that the larger voting is a young population.
Very young population.
Are you able to touch base with them? Do they understand you? I had to read about you. I had to ask questions about you.
I know that. I mean, when I was at the peak, I'm telling you, very young. When I was press secretary in 2001. But many people still see me as young. I can connect with the youth. I'm very vibrant. I'm articulate. I think I have the charisma to bring the party together, and I think I can be the glue, because I've served all our political leaders in the past. I'm one who has worked with everyone and has not had any bad word for anyone. So I believe I'm best positioned. I'm the most viable candidate to weld this party together, to heal the divisions. because they know the heat that is being generated in the party right now by the so-called candidates. You understand? But I am not that type. I have served Dubois-Hene, I've served Kufuor, I've served Akufo-Addo, and in 2023 I served Dr. Bawumia.
Which is, I have a few messages from people watching who want me to ask you about how you feel today having to contest in the same category with a person that you were very much dedicated to. That will be Bawumia. But again,
it shows my quality as a patriot. It's not for nothing that our leaders named our party New Patriotic Party. We are supposed to be patriots of this land. And we are the ultimate Democrats. We push for democracy's return to Ghana. And once you believe in democracy, it means majority rule. I was a contestant in 2023, you understand? But when I didn't get much of a vote, I was prepared to come out openly. In spite of all the tensions that was building in the party when people were threatening to leave and others were threatening showdowns and that kind of stuff, I cautioned them that you go through the history of this party, you always rally behind the one who is elected. In 1992, those of us who were young, we had a young executive forum, we supported Dr. Kwame Safoedu. But when a Dubois-Hene won, we rallied behind a Dubois-Hene. I became the face and the voice of the party in 1992, sitting on national television. In those days, there was no Joy FM. It was only Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. As a 30-year-old, it was a mighty assignment to be on national television, to prevail on Ghanaians and try and persuade them not to vote for the military dictator who was also standing for elections and vote for Professor Dubois-Hene. If you didn't have courage, that spirit of sacrifice, you wouldn't do that. As a young civil engineer working at Ghana Highway Authority, which is a public service, under the then head of state and military leader. But I sacrificed for the party because I believe in the party. And we worked together to support Professor Dubois-Hene. In 1998, I was candidate Akufo-Addo's first campaign manager. Went around the country, lost to candidate Kufuor in Sunyani. And Kufuor saw my potential, brought me as part of his campaign. I was the de facto director of communications in the lead up to the 2000 election. I was the one he nominated to go and represent him at the Electoral Commission, although I didn't support him in the primary. So he is a quintessential Democrat, Mr. Kufuor. Put us all together when he became president, brought me close to himself, although he knew I didn't support him. I was his press secretary for close to 6 years. I'm making these points because in 2023, I felt it a duty to support Dr. Bawumia, who had been elected by the masses of our party. But that electoral cycle ended on December 7th. This is a new electoral cycle. You understand? When we talk like that, we make it seem that nobody should support the winner. Because when you support the winner, it means you are banned for politics for life. You know, that cannot be right. And I think I should not be penalized for doing what is right by the party and what is right by a patriot of our party. And so I supported him, and I think every genuine patriot has the sacred duty to support who comes out of this election. I'm confident that my message is resonating across the country, and we are in line for a big upset victory in this January 31st election. You know, and I expect all of the other colleagues to rally behind me the way I rallied behind Dr. Bawumia when I win this election on 31st January.
Professor Frimpong Boateng has altered an article, and I'm not sure if you have seen it.
I've seen that. I've seen it.
How do you feel about that article? He majorly talks about the leadership of the party. You
know, you see, sometimes, good prof, my senior, my good friend, I'm uncomfortable with that because you were in cabinet for 4 years. When you are in cabinet for 4 years, you make your voice heard when it matters most, not when you are outside, that you have to start throwing stones inside. But some of the points he made are important.
Do you mean internally as a party member or his role he took up? Because, of course, he was always...
I think that once you are given a cabinet position, and I think we need to build a new Ghanaian, a new politician. When things are going wrong in government, speak about it in cabinet.
He's been quite vocal.
No, he wasn't when he was minister. He wasn't when he was minister. You know, so, yes, I agree to quite a number of what he has said.
Like which one? I'm curious.
Well, I don't think you should worry too much about that. I think it's important, I've mentioned it here, the impression should not be created that the establishment is right behind a particular candidate. It doesn't bode well for bringing everybody together. With me, my record is clear. It's a matter of, it's a public record. I've always supported the party, even when I was going through a traumatic experience in this party. I never turned my back on the party. I always supported the party, even in 2016, over 100 constituencies, supporting them materially. You understand?
You've just described it traumatic.
Yes.
Have you healed?
I'm talking about my unjustifiable and illegal removal as General Secretary of the party.
I recall, but
Yes.
have you healed completely?
Of course. I mean, I am someone that God has given a lot of emotional strength because of my background. I've been through difficulty as a young 20-year-old when I lost my dad. You understand? So I've been through a lot. So I'm very tough, emotionally tough. So
If your father was here today, what would he say to you?
I think he'll be proud of me. And I do a lot of things in his honor. Every 30th June, I go to the Supreme Court. We go and lay a wreath where his statue stands with his other colleagues, you know. And I know who he was. He was not a materialistic person. He trained me as staunch Methodist to serve mankind, because we Methodists, to serve man is to serve God and to serve quietly and to not brag about it. And that's what we do. You know, so we need values here in this country. We need to restore that moral fiber which is being eaten away by materialism. And we, the politicians, should take a lead. And Ghanaians should stop becoming enablers of bad behavior by politicians. When something is wrong, it is wrong. So it doesn't matter whether it is MPP. And that's why when I came out and I said the president should act and change things in 2022, at the time, the dollar was heading into a tailspin. It had moved to 7 from 5. Some people criticized me. And I said, no, this is the country we need to build. The people who can look in their president's eye and tell them the truth. The reason why presidents have always accommodated chairmen and general secretaries of their party is only a convention. But it's a good convention, because being general secretary and chairman, you should carry the sentiments of your political party into cabinet. So when decisions are being taken, so you can become check and balances. You are not supposed to go there and become an enabler. You know,
How did you resolve the 4 million?
Well, that matter was dealt with. We've dealt with that. That's why I'm on the ballot.
Okay. When you say you dealt with that, meaning that you paid?
It's been dealt with. I don't want to go back there. It's been dealt with. I'm on the ballot. And I'm running my campaign.
They say that it's quite expensive to run a campaign in this country.
It is. It is. It is. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if you go and meet, even some constituencies have 1,500 delegates, like this constituency that we are in. I think it's Ayawaso Central, if I'm right. And even if you are able to afford 100 cedis for their transport, sometimes you want to share their transport burden with them. If you give them 100 cedis, that is 150,000 in one constituency. So multiply that by 276. You haven't talked about your team you are working with, the petrol that you're using to travel around the country, the hotels you're sleeping, the feeding and accommodation. So it's tough. It's tough. But you have good people who believe in your philosophy. So there are a lot of people supporting me, chipping in here and there, 500,000 here, 1 million there, small, then we're moving. But it's very, very tough. So unfortunately, I'm not able to meet all the delegates. But every constituency I go, I try and bring in at least 100 of the polling stations and then another 100 of the other executives. And even 200, if you're able to give them 200 cities, that's 40,000. For someone who's been ostracized and sidelined for 10 years, that is a tough call. I
could have this conversation with you. Unfortunately, I'm wrapping the conversation, but let's pretend that we're not on TV and then I pulled you to the corner and asked you, will you win? Are you sure you'll win?
It's tough, and when you are going to an election, it's not like a football match. There's never a drawn result. It's either you win or you lose. So you've got to emotionally prepare yourself for either outcome. You understand? So I'm working very hard. I have a feel that the party is ready to deliver a shocking result. They believe in my values. They believe in my long-standing, dedicated service to this tradition. They believe that that is what will bode well for the Ghanaian people. They believe it is time for a new dawn. a fresh lease of life, a departure from what the status quo that we have been used for the last 20 years. And they think that Engineer Kwabena Agyepong, I tick those boxes. I'm firm, I'm tough, I will impose order and discipline and make sure Ghana is what we all desire to be. We have to work hard at that and reorient our people. I think that for me is critical. This monetary-driven politics has to cease.
Thank you.
We have to know that we can put our hand on our chest and love our country, Ghana.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, MFA, for the opportunity.
You're watching the AM show. Please stay. That's more.